You know, I was thinking about all the songs that have love in the title or the main theme. I'm reminded of the Beatles song, "All you need is love, boop-a-doop-a-doo. All you need is love, boop-a-doop-a-doo." Huh? And what about Dusty Springfield? "What the world needs now is love, sweet love. That's the only thing there is too little of." And then we have, "They'll know we are Christians by our love." But then you got the other side of it too, don't you? Any of you remember Ernest Tubb? Well, he's got two different songs that are kind of interesting. One is called "Walking the Floor Over You." And essentially what that means is his love has caused him a lot of grief. And then he's got thanks a lot. "You made me hurt, you made me cry, I cry a lot." How about Mickey Gilley? "Looking for love in all the wrong places." And then, of course, Dolly Parton, "Jolene's coming for her man." Martin Luther King once said, "I still believe that love is the most durable power in the world. Over the centuries, men and women have sought to discover the highest good. This has been the chief quest of ethical philosophy. What is the real component of life? It is love." I'd like to start with a story today. It's rather lengthy, so I hope that you'll stay with me throughout it. There's a story told of an old monastery that had fallen on hard times. It was once a great order, but as a result of waves of anti-monastic persecution in the 17th and 18th century, and in the rise of secularism in the 19th, all of its branches' houses were lost, and it had become decimated to the extent there was only 5 monks left in the decaying mother house. The abbot and 4 others, all over 70 in age. Clearly, it was a dying order. Things looked grim. In the deep woods surrounding the monastery, there was a little hut that a rabbi from a nearby town occasionally used for hermitage. Through their many years of prayer and contemplation, the old monks had become a bit psychic, so they could hardly sense when the rabbi was in the hermitage. "The rabbi's in the woods! The rabbi's in the woods again!" they would whisper to each other. As they agonized over the imminent death of their order, it occurred to the abbot on one of those occasions to visit the hermitage and to ask the rabbi of some possible chance he could offer any advice that might save their monastery. The rabbi welcomed the abbot in his hut, but when the abbot explained the purpose of his visit, the rabbi could only commiserate with him. "I know how it is. The spirit has gone out of the people. It is the same in my town. No one comes to the synagogue anymore." So the old abbot and the old rabbi wept together. They talked for a long while. Then the time came when the abbot had to leave. They embraced each other. "It has been a wonderful thing that we should meet after all these years," the abbot said. "But I have still failed in my purpose for coming here. Is there anything new you can tell me? No piece of advice you can give me that would help me save my dying order?" "No, I'm sorry," the rabbi responded. "I have no advice to give. The only thing I can tell you is that the Messiah is one of you." When the abbot returned to the monastery, his fellow monks gathered around and asked, "What did the rabbi say?" He couldn't help. We just wept and read the Torah together. The only thing he did say, just as I was leaving, it was something cryptic, was that the Messiah is one of us. I don't know what he meant. Sent from my day in the days and weeks and months that followed, the old monks pondered this and wondered whether there was any possible significance to the rabbi's words. The Messiah is one of us? Could he possibly meant one of us here at the monastery? If that's the case, which one? Do you suppose he meant Father Abbott? He has been our leader for more than a generation. On the other hand, maybe he meant Brother Thomas. Certainly, Brother Thomas is a holy man. Everyone knows that Thomas is a man of light. Certainly, he could not have meant Brother Eldred. Eldred gets so grumpy at times. But come to think of it, even though he's a thorn in our side, when you look back at it, Eldred is always right. Often very right. Maybe the rabbi meant Brother Eldred, but surely not Brother Philip. Philip's always abound when you need him, but sometimes he's just magical in the way he gets by our side. Maybe Philip is the Messiah. Of course, the rabbi didn't mean me. He couldn't possibly meant me. I'm just an ordinary guy. Yet supposing he did. Supposing I'm the Messiah. Oh God, not me. I couldn't be that much to you, could I? As they contemplated in this manner, the old monks began to treat one another extraordinarily with love and respect. And off the off chance that each monk might himself be the Messiah, they began to treat each other with extraordinary love and respect. And because the forest in which it was situated was beautiful, it so happened that people still occasionally came to visit the monastery, to picnic in its fine lawn, to wonder about some of its paths. Even now and then goes up into the dilapidated buildings to meditate. And as they did so, without even being conscious of it, they sensed this aura of extraordinary love and respect that had now begun to surround the 5 monks and seemed to radiate from them and permeate the atmosphere of the place. There was something strangely attractive, even compelling about it. Well, friends, we can talk a lot about love, can't we? Sometimes when you and I do love, at least I feel that way, sometimes I feel kind of weak, like I'm a goody two-shoes. There's Pilcher loving again. Huh? And sometimes you kind of put that down, don't we? Anybody can love, right? But the truth of the matter is, when you and I love, we're very strong. Very strong. We're not immature when we do love. We're not ineffectual when we do love. We're not. And yet sometimes we feel like maybe when we're doing it, anybody can do it. And maybe it isn't that beautiful. Years ago, I read a book. It was called I Ain't Well, But I Sure Am Better. What an interesting title. The author was a man by the name of Jess Lair. And Jess, in his writing, really affected me because, you know what he said? You are gifted if you have 5 good friends. I used to laugh and say I've got 4, but I need a 5th, and it's not booze. To have 5 good friends that would rely on you deeply, would take their time to listen to you, would be available to you when you needed someone to listen. Jess Lair says, when you and I have 5 good friends, we are truly gifted. One of the stories that has affected me is one by a man by the name of Willard Hewlett. And I don't know much about Willard, but I sure do like his story. It seems as though a man and his wife were in an orphanage where they had hoped to adopt a child. As they looked into the faces of all the little boys and girls, one boy in particular appealed to them. He was quiet and shy, but his eyes said a million things. After they explained to the small boy the many things they would give him and how much he would be grateful, The boy spoke up and said, "You have nothing to offer except a good home, clothes, toys, and other things like that the other kids have. I would just as soon stay here." Boy, they were taken back by the kid's honesty. They were shocked. And so, as they finished the conversation, the little boy said, "I just want somebody to love me." Powerful. Okay, moving right along. I'm reminded of this quotation, which was said back in 1167. So you can see how old it is. I quote, "4 things are especially the property of friendship: love and affection, security and joy. And 4 things must be tried in friendship: faith, intention, discretion, and patience. Indeed, as the sage says, all people would lead a happy life if only 2 tiny words were taken from them: mine and thine." Well, I've titled this sermon, "Trouble with Love." So we got to talk about the trouble side, don't we? We've all been victimized by some things that other people have done, or we have done, that were troubling, not so beautiful. We've probably all broken hearts of somebody or other, either not giving them the job that they were entitled to, or, God forbid, something other worse. So there's several different kinds of love, isn't there? There's romantic love, which is friendship. There's love of country. There's love of God. But when we love, love is love. Is there such thing as good love and bad love? No. There's only good lovers and bad lovers. Huh? Am I not right? The trouble with love is the trouble with the human heart. A good heart produces creative love. A corrupt heart produces destructive love. It mutilates it. That's tragic. Absolutely tragic. Got to check the time. Oh boy, 11:18 already? Okay, the first rule is explained in today's gospel lesson. Jesus said, "I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me and I in him, it is he that bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing." The second rule of love is to recognize that likely times love will go wrong. But if you have the possibilities, try to get it back on track. Friends, another story I just got to share with you. Burl Ives is from Illinois, went to Eastern Illinois University, and he was probably known more as a folk singer, but he was a pretty good actor. I don't ever remember, well, I say if you remember, there was a play called Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. Remember, if you remember, Paul Newman was in it. And in the play, Brock, the son, had problems. And he had problems with his father and with his wife. And he had an excessive use of alcohol. And Burl Ives plays the character Big Daddy. And in his own crude way, he was really concerned about the boy. He really felt like he wanted to touch this boy. He wanted to make a difference in this boy. And this boy was played by Newman, who was angry at the Big Daddy, angry at Burl. And he just will not behave. And yet, Big Daddy keeps coming. Big Daddy just won't give up. Just, Big Daddy, I'm going to get through to this guy no matter what, because I love him that much. And Big Daddy, as the movie moves on and on, eventually cracks through. And Brock, played by Newman, feels the love, feels how conquering love made a difference. I've got so much else that I can't get to. Shameful. But listen, since I've got a bully pulpit, I did a lot of memorials when I was in Illinois. In fact, there was one group, the Elks, that I had to do it every year. So I got pretty familiar with some quotations. And these two I'm going to give you now, I did it almost every time. There was a man by the name of Leo Buscaglia, and he wrote a lot of books, and he was a professor of love at the University of Southern California. And this is from his book, Living, Loving, and Learning. Death teaches us, if we want to hear, that the time is now. The time is now to pick up a telephone and call a person that you love. Death teaches us the joy of the moment. It teaches that you do not have forever. It teaches you that nothing is permanent. It teaches you to let go. There is nothing you can hang on to. It tells you to give up expectations and let tomorrow tell its own story. But because nobody knows if they will be home tonight, to me, that is a tremendous challenge. This says, live now. Tell the children that. I got to be careful with this quotation. It's by Leo Roston. I have no idea whether he was famous or not, but I can tell you one thing. This quotation is very, very good. Here it is. In some small way, however, each of us is a little mad. Everyone is lonely at bottom and cries to be understood. But we can never entirely understand someone else. Each of us remains part stranger, even to those who love us. It is the weak who are cruel. Gentleness can only be expected from the strong. Those who do not fear are not really brave, for courage has the capacity to confront what can be imagined. We can understand people better if we look at them, no matter how old or impressive they may be, as if they were children. Most of us never mature. We simply grow taller or ordinary or lose our hair. Happiness only comes when we push our brains and hearts to the fullest reaches of which we are capable. The purpose of life is to matter, to count, to stand for something, to have loved, to have made a difference, that we have even lived at all. Whew. Powerful stuff. I'm almost done. One more poem. Love is giving when you haven't got. Love is giving when you haven't got. It's strength when you are weak as a kitten. It's carrying on and carrying through and chewing words you've bitten. It's getting up and making the tea when you'd rather do your own thing. It's reaching out with comfort when there's nothing else to bring. It's giving up your own life or putting it on hold. It's being there in warm ways and keeping out the cold. Love sometimes means resentment and the fight to keep it away. Being careful with those feelings so they won't get in that way. It may mean making no plans when someone else comes first, or having days so heavy you start to believe you're cursed. Love's also sitting quietly and praying for the Spirit. It's knowing God has heard you. There's company when you hear it. Well, I don't have time to read this song, but in my collection, if you want to come over to my house, I'll play it for you. It's called A Thing Called Love. It's by Jimmy Dean. Just briefly, 6'6" on the ground. I weighed 235 pounds, but I saw a giant of a man put down by the thing called love. He was a kind of man who would gamble on luck, look you in the eye and never back up. But I saw him crying like a little whipped pup because of love. You can't see it with your eyes or hold it in your hands, but the wind that covers our land strong enough to rule the heart of any man, this thing called love. It can lift you up, never let you down, take your world and turn it all around. Ever since time, nothing's ever been found that's stronger than love. Most people are like me. They struggle and doubt. They trouble their little minds day in and day out. Too busy to worry about a little word called love. But when I see a mother's tenderness as she loves her young child, and when I see these kids hugging and talking about how they can be loving, thing called love, guess we have to move on.